Welcome, everybody, to the UCLA Neurology Residency Virtual Open House. My name is Adrienne Keener. I'm the program director, joined today by our department leadership, residency program leadership, along with our residents. We are excited to share with you what we love about our program here at UCLA and why we think it's a great place to train for your residency. The Q&A will be open during the webinar, so please go ahead and put questions in there as we go along. We'll be sharing some PowerPoint presentations to help you learn more about our program, and we'll save the Q&A for the end. I'd like to start by introducing our department chair, Dr. Tom Carmichael, who can provide an overview of our department. Dr. Carmichael, take it away.
Great, thank you, Adrienne. It's a pleasure to welcome everyone to this this kind of fun idea. Of course, we've done this for a number of years, but to have this sort of summertime preview of the department, I'm going to give a very quick several-minute overview of the neurology department. We're a large department. We have now over 150 faculty and over 550 staff. We're about a third physician scientist or scientist, about a third clinician scientist, and about a third clinician or clinician educator. So we're not really pigeonholed into one area or the other of academic neurology. We have 13 programs and 5 services, and you'll see on our website it spans the gamut of all the subspecialties. We have depth in the important mission areas of academic neurology: research, clinical care, education, community outreach. In research, we've been one of the top NIH-funded neurology departments since the mid-90s. And this really gives us a depth of resources for research projects, clinical trials. The residents are involved in a lot of these. It's led to a lot of publications and sort of research heft. We have the top publication impact factor of any department in the country for neurology, and with faculty like Jeff Saver, Dan Geschwin, John Mazziata, Tom Randau, and others, you can see why that would be. On the clinical mission, we have many clinical environments. You'll hear more about this, but this really gives us a diversity of training experiences. The mothership in Westwood, a lot of tertiary and quaternary care, a large county safety net hospital in all of you, VA. We have the largest neuro rehab hospital in the state at Cal Rehab, and many outpatient clinics and a large community neurology network. So diverse patients and pathologies. The education you hear a lot about, I won't talk about that very much, but it's an intense focus on education. It's a great educational team, as you'll see. And you'll also hear that it's really a bottom-up environment. We learn from our residents. We take new directions based on their interests and their ideas, and that's really important to us. We've launched a Neurology Academy of Educators, which you'll hear more about, which really serves to give us an extra level of training as adult educators. And we have a great, as part of the tracks you'll hear, we have a great research track that we just got likely renewed. We can't officially say that, but the R25, which is now a UE5, is likely to be fully funded for the next stint. And so that's exciting. And then the final community of the final mission areas are community outreach. You'll hear a lot about this. It's really a growing area of the department as we seek to understand and lift up many of the underserved communities in our environment. We're doing this particularly in the neurodegenerative diseases. So finally, it's an integrative, collaborative, and growing place. We have a lot of new faculty each year. We're intensely interactive. We're the largest UC by people, on the smallest by campus size. And so we're literally all over each other. And that's a good thing for academic neurology. We go to our seminars, we see each other in the hallway. So it leads to a vibrancy and dynamism. So thank you for your participation today, and we look forward to interacting with you further.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Carmichael. To follow those remarks, I'd like to introduce another member of our department leadership, former residency program director, and our vice chair of education, Dr. Charles Flippen.
Thank you, Dr. Keener. To dovetail off of a comment Dr. Carmichael made, education is really at the hub of the department. It is what ties together our affiliate sites to the mothership here in Westwood. It is the lifeblood of creativity and of the family that we have generated here at UCLA Neurology. The residency program is part of a continuum. starting with undergraduate medical education with our medical students. The residents help connect them to the faculty. As residents, you will be the primary teachers in many cases for the medical students. They'll spend most of their time attached to your hip as you're doing now, having finished your clerkships and doing electives. So we take education very seriously, such that we are growing in our education scholarship as a department. That's just a sign of the intention with which we approach teaching you and training you to be the best neurologist possible. So what we want to extend to you today is a view of the opportunities that are available here at UCLA Neurology. And there are a plethora of opportunities. And so relax, take all of it in. You have plenty of time to ask questions. If not today, in the near future, we will have other outreaches to our applicants. This is an exciting time for you. You get to view the cornucopia of neurology education across the country. There are a lot of great places to train. Of course, I think this one is a special place to train, and I hope that after tonight, you'll share that opinion. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Keener.
Thank you so much, Dr. Flippen, for those words of wisdom to share with our applicants. For the next part of this webinar, I'm going to share a PowerPoint presentation to take you all through what we think are some of the highlights of our residency training program. Joining me on this journey will be our Associate Program Director, Dr. Fu, and then we'll turn it over to one of our chief residents, Dr. Kobayashi, to share the perspective of life as a resident at UCLA. I'll start by saying that I myself was once in your shoes and was a resident here at UCLA. And I always say the thing that drew me here then is the thing that has kept me here ever since, and that's really the people that make up our program and our department. And so we hope to convey as best we can virtually what it's like to be here among us as part of our UCLA Neurology family. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. All right. So welcome again to the UCLA Neurology Residency Open House. This picture here is sort of the core residency program. Our faculty and residents from across all years of training at our annual residency retreat in the mountains here in Lake Arrowhead. And what we're going to share with you today are some of the highlights of training here at UCLA in our program. Of course, we believe we offer outstanding clinical training. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Highlighting the diverse patient populations that we see across our 3 different training sites, which Dr. Carmichael alluded to in the introductory remarks. We're in one of the largest neurology departments in the country, and that affords our residents many opportunities to explore their interests. And we'll talk about how we facilitate that through our special interest tracks and other opportunities during training. So you've met Dr. Carmichael and Dr. Flippen, our leaders in the department. I'm Dr. Adrienne Keener. Dr. Catherine Fu is our Associate Program Director and also an alumna of our training program. And the other person who's critical in our education mission is Dr. Kara Siegel, who's our Clerkship Director. Not joining us today, but another key member of our education team. Our chief residents are also critical leaders in the education mission in our department. And this year's chief residents, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Noel Kobayashi, Dr. Alvin Singh, and Dr. Rebecca Jules. Our chief residents really play a key role in shaping the program. We really rely on their creativity and ideas. They're advocates and liaisons for the residents to the department leadership. And it's really a joy working with them to continue to improve our program year after year. I also want to give a special thank you to our Neurology Education Office staff. They are the faces behind the scenes that make events like this possible. Seher Rupani is our Education Director. Paulina Castellanos, our Clerkship Coordinator. Oscar Ariano, our Fellowship Coordinator. And Steve Ortiz, our Assistant Residency Coordinator. So as you've heard mentioned a bit already, UCLA Neurology is one of the largest neurology departments in the world, really, and includes many world-renowned clinical neurologists and basic neuroscientists, representing every subspecialty of neurology. I know it wasn't until I came here as a trainee at UCLA that I even knew that neuro-otology was a subspecialty that I could pursue. So pictured here are just a few examples of the many wonderful and diverse faculty that our residents have an opportunity to work with and learn from. I think having such a large faculty can sometimes seem a bit intimidating to residents, but really the culture in our department is one that's very collaborative. People are very approachable and open-minded. I think all of our faculty really enjoy getting to know our residents and are happy to mentor them and work with them. So this really provides, numerous opportunities for really nearly anyone's interest in the field of neurology. As alluded to earlier, I want to spend a little bit of time describing our 3 different training sites. So this here is a map of Los Angeles. And the arrows here point to the different clinical training sites that our residents rotate at. Pictured here is Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center, located in Westwood, just on the south side of the main UCLA campus. And being on the UCLA campus really affords us a lot of connection with other departments, including those on upper campus, like the social sciences. Right across the freeway, actually down the street from UCLA, is the West Los Angeles VA Medical Center. The West LA VA is one of the largest VAs in the country, serving a diverse population of veterans. We also have centers of excellence within our neurology department at the West LA VA, including a Parkinson's Center of Excellence, MS, and epilepsy centers of excellence as well. Heading north on the freeway into the valley is the Sepulveda VA Medical Center, which is an outpatient clinic affiliated with the VA, where our residents spend part of their continuity clinic time. And just slightly north of that is Allevue UCLA Medical Center, which is one of 3 hospitals in the LA County Safety Net Hospital system, serving a large uninsured or underinsured patient population. So across these different training sites, you can see that our residents get to train in different systems of care, learning to navigate and advocate for their patients, get to work with different patient populations with unique needs, and really get to see a diverse spread of pathology, I think really exposed to the breadth and depth of the field of neurology through rotating at all of these different clinical sites. I mentioned here that the Ronald Reagan Medical Center is just on the south part of campus. And just to highlight a little bit of sort of the presence that neuroscientists and neurology have on the campus, we have our main offices and research labs in the Reed Neurological Research Building here, which is right next to the Brain Mapping Center. Just near the School of Public Health, we also have 2 additional buildings, the Neuroscience Research Building and Gonda, where additional neuroscience labs are housed. And you can see this is right near the Life Sciences Building, and just where this dotted line is actually not all green grass, but more buildings that make up the main undergraduate campus. So bioengineering is just, just across from the Neuroscience Research Building, et cetera. And all of this campus is situated within Westwood, which is a really walkable community, a college community with wonderful restaurants and other things to enjoy. And so our residents certainly take advantage of the location of the campus to enjoy exploring Los Angeles as their home base. We have a hybrid categorical and advanced program, which I'll take a moment to explain. So we have 9 residents per year in our program. 6 of those positions are categorical positions. What that means is that the internship is included here with our Department of Internal Medicine at UCLA and spent primarily rotating at the West LA VA Medical Center. The other 3 positions are considered advanced residency positions, but we have a joint program with the All of You Internal Medicine program. And so our 3 advanced residents are guaranteed an internship spot without additional interview or anything at All of You UCLA Medical Center. Both programs in internal medicine provide a really solid foundation of internal medicine training that really prepare you to transition to the PGY 2-year. They both have what we call an 4+1 block scheduling, where you have 4 weeks of inpatient time balanced with 1 week of outpatient time. And during that outpatient time at both locations, you get to rotate with us, with the neurology residents and attendings in the neurology outpatient clinics. We also have a 2-week inpatient neurology rotation for our interns at both All of You and the VA. So this provides an opportunity for us to all be working together, even when you're in your internal medicine year. We have really made great progress as we've shifted to a more categorical program over recent years and integrating the interns as part of our program. Once you enter your 3 years of neurology training, we have in the PGY 2-year also an X+Y block scheduling. We have 4 weeks of inpatient balanced with 2 weeks of outpatient rotations. And these include core inpatient rotations of the general neurology service and stroke service at Reagan, the West LA VA inpatient neurology service, the All of You neurology consult service, and night float rotations. On the outpatient weeks, you get to rotate through various subspecialty clinics, as well as your continuity clinic, of course. The 4+2 sort of inpatient outpatient block scheduling is something that was an innovation of one of our residents a few years ago and really has allowed us to give earlier outpatient subspecialty exposure during residency training, and also provides a nice balance in terms of wellness, giving you a break from the inpatient service where you can enjoy and focus on your outpatient learning. In the PGY 3 and PGY 4 year, we have ample elective time for career exploration. You also step into senior roles in the PGY 3 and 4 year with graduated autonomy leading our inpatient service at the various sites. You also have your pediatric neurology rotations, your psychiatry rotation, the epilepsy monitoring unit rotation, and neurocritical care unit rotation. So we feel that this graduated autonomy throughout the schedule, as well as ample elective time in the 3 and 4 year, really give our residency sort of a choose your own adventure option, where our residents can really tailor their training experience to their interests. And it also provides a lot of flexibility in training for our residents who want to explore in more depth some of our special interest tracks, which you'll hear about shortly. I'd like to introduce Dr. Catherine Fu, who will take over from here to dive a little bit more into our curriculum.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Keener. Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for taking the time out of your busy days to learn more about our program. So I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to talk more about our curriculum, which is near and dear to my heart. One of the things that we implemented relatively recently is our PGY2 boot camp. So we acknowledge that there's a lot of stress and sort of anxiety in that transition from your internal medicine intern year to being a neurology resident, kind of unfortunately having to do intern year almost again in neurology. And so to prepare our PGY2 residents for that transition, we've implemented sort of a boot camp, which is approximately 1 week of really protected time for learning. You get site orientations from our different clinical sites. We've integrated a stroke and status epilepticus simulation. You get different lectures and sessions from both residents and faculty to really teach you about management of acute inpatient emergencies and inpatient consults. And then, of course, we have other sort of social events to promote camaraderie and bonding, a wellness session to promote reflective practice, to really set our PGY2 residents up for success as they take call in July. And then we have our Wednesday AM academic half day. This academic half day occurs from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., primarily on Wednesday mornings. Our PGY2 residents have protected time for learning. And so our senior residents are also encouraged to come, but the senior residents that are on inpatient service continue to cover the services, but those on elective, and for example, our EMU or neuro-ICU rotations are welcome to come as well. From 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., we have grand rounds. From 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. are our subspecialty didactics. And so each month has kind of a subspecialty theme. So for example, September is epilepsy month, October is movement disorders, November is neuromuscular. And so the subspecialty didactics are centered around these themes to sort of promote cohesiveness and integration of learning. And then from 12 to 1 p.m., we have what we call our longitudinal curricula. So these are topics that don't fall within any sort of subspecialty, but nevertheless are important for our residents to learn and align with our neurology milestones. And we have 5 of these. The first is our wellness curriculum. The second is professional development. What this means is these are sessions kind of geared towards introducing our residents to different careers, different practice settings, and hopefully this year we'll be leveraging our broad alumni base to help support this curriculum. Our third is our health equity curriculum. We have a robust quality improvement and morbidity and mortality conferences sort of curriculum. And then finally, our evidence-based medicine and journal club curriculum. We also take this hour for sort of program town halls, updates, and chief resident check-ins with our residents as well. And then finally, we have a lot of subspecialty conferences that occur. We have our neuromuscular fellow level lectures that our residents are welcome to attend on their neuromuscular electives. Our general neurology team often will attend brain cutting on Thursday morning with our neuropathology colleagues. We have our neurovascular conference, which occurs every Friday morning on the stroke service. And there are just so many more that we could continue, sort of listing. And our residents are very much welcome and encouraged to attend these on their sort of respective elective rotations. I think aligning with Dr. Flippin's mention of our commitment to medical education scholarship, we've presented a number of our recent our recent interventions to our neurology residency program in publication form and at various national meetings. The 4+2 schedule was published in the Neurology Education Journal. You can see this infographic on the right a few years ago. And we presented our boot camp initiative as an oral presentation at AN last year, as well as our evidence-based medicine journal club curriculum as well. Next slide. Great, so moving on to mentorship. Common question we get from applicants are, what kind of mentorship is available at our program? So the answer is lots of mentorship. So you'll have peer mentors. Peer mentoring, your peer mentoring is very important. And so this year, we've always had resident families, but this year we've kind of restructured them. So now that we have a very sort of cohesive cohort of PGY 1 through 4 residents, our families have a full family tree. Each family has a PGY 1, 2, 3, and 4 resident to allow for kind of, once again, that robust sort of family network. We have our chief residents, of course, who are a significant resource to all of our residents. We also have a faculty mentorship program. So each resident in our program is paired with a faculty mentor based on their career interests and subspecialty interests. This is not sort of locked in per se. If your interests change over time, we're of course happy to, change and sort of adapt that mentor relationship if needed. And then of course our residents, as they work with attendings on the clinical services, they'll naturally form relationships and you'll end up having more than just your one assigned faculty mentor. And then of course, myself and Dr. Keener consider us mentors to, you know, all of the residents in our program. All right, and so now I'm going to be very pleased to talk about our residency special interest tracks. So we have 4 of these: our research track, our EDI, equity, diversity, inclusion, and advocacy track, our global health track, and our clinician educator track. These tracks are optional for our residents, not mandatory, but they are there to really support the career development of our residents. If they are interested in any sort of career direction, these tracks are available to support that. Another common question we get is, can I participate in more than one track? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. Participation can kind of vary. We have quarterly track meetings for each of the tracks, and any of our residents can drop in on any of those track meetings. Each track has certain requirements to fulfill in order to get the certificate of distinction for that track at your graduation. And so it's sort of up to the resident, you know, how many requirements they would like to fulfill to obtain, you know, however many certificates. I would say most of our residents choose to complete 1 track. A few choose to complete 2. Very few, I think, do more than that. We also do want our residents to have robust personal lives and lives outside of work. But once again, we encourage our residents to pursue the resources and opportunities available across all of the tracks. So our first track is the research development track. Neurology residents can train in either basic or clinical science research through direct study, oral and written scientific presentation, and really intensive mentored career development. They are encouraged to submit an R25 research grant application, and this will allow them to have 6 months of consecutive research time in their PGY4 year. And this will really help to jumpstart their careers as they continue that 18 months of sort of funded research time that can also be applied to a fellowship. And so this is our kind of our most long-standing track. Next, our equity, diversity, inclusion, and advocacy track. Residents in this track really gain an in-depth understanding of social determinants of health that can impact neurologic care. They can participate potentially in clinical trials relevant to this, as well as health outcomes or health services research relevant to our neurologic conditions. This track offers sort of its own curriculum as part of the track. Many of our residents, as part of this track, volunteer at the Venice Family Clinic as one of their community outreach efforts. And other prior residents have also attended Neurology on the Hill to participate in advocacy efforts as well. We hope that through participation in this track that our residents can develop the skills to really become leaders in patient advocacy in healthcare settings. All right, our global health development track. So a number of our residents are interested in global health, which is fantastic. Neurology, there's a huge global need for good neurologists, across the world. And so our residents can really gain hands-on experience in clinical care and research while developing a global health project. We have institution partnerships in a variety of places: Mexico City, Thailand, Uganda, Zambia, and London. I think more recently we've had residents go to Zambia, have had really great experiences there. Residents often rotate during their elective time in the PGY 3 or 4 year. And we, of course, have our faculty leads and mentors of this track who provide academic advising and development of a global health research project. And then finally, our clinician educator development track. The goal of this track is to prepare our neurology residents for careers as a clinician educator. There's a focus on teaching and curriculum design and development. And through the Medical Education Fellowship, this is in collaboration with the School of Medicine. And so one of the opportunities for our residents as part of this track is to apply for the certificate program of which the Medical Education Fellowship program, which is a certificate program. There's 2 years. Participation is optional, and in the 2 years is optional. Year 1 focuses on innovations in curriculum design and evaluation, kind of propose a project, brainstorm, walk through the 6 steps of curriculum development to familiarize yourself with that process. The other half of the year is really focused on honing and improving the teaching skills of all the fellows in this program. Year 2, if you choose to do it, is really focused on medical education scholarship and research methods, quantitative methods, qualitative methods, Once again, optional to participate, but yet another opportunity for our residents. The medical education fellowship sessions are held on a bi-weekly basis, once again, encouraging scholarly projects. And even though, residency is very busy with a lot of clinical commitments, they've been very accommodating, and our residents have been able to participate in the medical education fellowship very successfully. All right, and so now I'm going to hand it back over to Dr. Keener to talk about our benefits.
Great, thank you so much, Dr. Fu. So speaking to our resident benefits, I think it's helpful to highlight here that our residents at UCLA across all GME programs are actually part of a union. And so that has really allowed us to provide benefits to our residents that make life in LA, I think, very livable. So I think frequently we hear questions from people about the cost of living in Los Angeles, which of course is a real concern when you're on a resident salary. But with the benefits that our residents have, there's a very generous housing stipend, in addition to, I think, a very fair salary that has been increased over the years to keep up with the cost of living. You also have a meal stipend, as well as Uber Eats when you're rotating at the VA. We cover sort of professional fees like license renewal and reimbursement for USMLE Step 3. We also have a very generous leave policy, including family medical leave and pregnancy disability leave, which of course is very important. We also highlight here the Behavioral Wellness Center, which is a resource for free mental health care for our residents and their dependents. In addition, there's an education fund. You get your personalized white coat and jacket from UCLA, as well as medical, dental, and vision benefits, of course. So I think, when sometimes I ask our residents what we should be sure to highlight to the applicants, they say we don't do enough to emphasize what great benefits our residents have. Again, enjoy, I think, a very comfortable lifestyle here in LA, even though acknowledging that the cost of living here can be higher than other parts of the country. I want to turn now to wellness, which has been a real focus in our program for the past several years. And one of the things that we've done recently is to really institute our resident wellness committee, which has taken off. This includes departmental funding for wellness activities for our residents. And the committee has really been very creative in the way they've used these funds to support our residents in a variety of ways. We also have some of our system level initiatives that we've mentioned, like the 4+2 block schedule, night float system, so there's no 24-hour in-house call. There's also through the House Staff Union, a fatigue mitigation ride program. So if you're tired, you can take an Uber home to avoid getting on the road when you're fatigued. And I just put some pictures here of some of the fun things that our residents have done as part of the Wellness Committee. So there's the Wellness Longitudinal Curriculum, which we've built in to our protected didactic time to teach our residents skills to improve their resilience and also provide opportunities to work on wellness projects that they identify. We also give out sort of wellness goodie bags throughout the year. Pictured here is the Valentine's Day / in-service training exam bag that we gave to all of our residents. We also have bi-monthly community events where our residents plan social outings. Maybe that's hiking or going out to dinner or the movies or bowling or having a night's dinner together. Pictured here is the now famous Boba Fridays. So every Friday on the inpatient services, we provide a treat for our inpatient teams. And one of the new initiatives this year is spearheaded by our chair of our Resident Wellness Committee, our PGY4, Dr. Ramita Kara, is Coffee with a Colleague, which is a peer support program where our residents can meet one-on-one with a resident volunteer who's been trained as a peer supporter. So we're really excited to see how this has blossomed, I think, in recent years, and really believe that it's an important part of our program. These are just some more fun pictures of our residents doing fun things around campus, traveling nearby, whether it's to the snow, the beach, going to see a movie outdoors here in Southern California. We really take advantage of all that that it has to offer. Just a word now briefly about a life beyond residency. So I mentioned sort of the breadth and depth of specialists within our department at UCLA, and our residents really do take advantage of that to pursue fellowship training in a variety of subspecialties, as you can see listed here. And on the right, you can see that many times our residents are, if they're not staying with us at UCLA for their fellowship, are going to some of the top programs across the country for their fellowship training. So training here at UCLA really does give you a lot of opportunity to explore and pursue almost any subspecialty within our field. And really, I think can carry you wherever you might want to go next in your career. This picture here is a picture of me with some of my co-residents at one of the AAN annual meetings. We really have a great alumni network at UCLA. We get together every year at the AAN annual meeting for an alumni event. And that alumni network also affords our trainees a lot of connections across the country and sometimes around the world. So I'm just gonna let this play through here, and you can see all the places, whether it's here in California, across the country, or even in Bangkok, Thailand, that some of our alumni practice. All right, lastly, I want to just take a moment to highlight the city of Los Angeles, the city of angels, where we live. It's really a wonderful city full of culture to explore. I think we're surrounded by the great outdoors. So even though it's a very urban and sprawling city, you can be at the beach or in the mountains within a matter of time to explore outdoor activities. We take advantage of the wonderful weather year-round. This is a picture of me with my family at the Santa Monica Pier. This is a picture of a hike we did with the residents a few years ago to the aptly named Mount Disappointment in the Angeles National Forest. So just a slide here to really highlight all the possibilities to explore outside of residency here in Los Angeles. So with that, we're going to wrap up our portion of the presentation today. And I'm going to invite our chief resident, Dr. Noel Kobayashi, to tell you a little bit more about life as a resident here at UCLA.
Hello. Okay. I'm going to attempt to share screen. Maybe I can just get confirmation real quick. Everyone can see? Dr. Keener?
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Perfect.
Well, I'm one of the PGY4s and one of the chief residents. Our other two chiefs are running the show inpatient right now. So hopefully I can do a good job kind of showing you guys what the residency is like. And we have some other residents that are going to be joining, so they may add some things in towards the end of the presentation. But first, I just want to say welcome, everyone. It's so nice to have you guys all here. We will have, opportunities moving forward to discuss more and kind of go into more details, but we just want to give you guys kind of a broad overview of what it's like to be a resident here at UCLA. So we are located in Southern California in Los Angeles. You will get used to the weather. I know it's not great, but we all adapt. So this is our main hospital. This is Ronald Reagan. We have kind of a picture of the hospital on the left, and then down on the bottom right is kind of where we have our lunch outside. It's just kind of trying to show that we're in a location that is, it's very nice to be living here. And then typically, just to kind of show, this is our typical kind of noon time. Everyone likes to go meet outside for lunch. And so oftentimes you'll walk outside, even if you're going kind of alone, and you'll see kind of our group. We tend to sit by the trees right in the sun. There's some shade there too, in case the days get extra hot. So to walk you through kind of a day, a general day in the life, and this is a little bit more catered to our Reagan rotations, but generally arrive by 7 a.m. That's kind of when the day starts. We have various teaching opportunities in the morning. So Monday, Tuesday, we have an anatomy of the day, like a quick kind of 5 to 10 minute presentation from the PGY2s. And then we do kind of like a morning report, which can either be a case or Jeopardy or something kind of just an educational opportunity. And that would be Mondays and Tuesdays. And then on Thursdays, as mentioned previously, we have brain cutting on the general neurology service. And then every other Friday is epilepsy teaching with Dr. Noor. And then on the stroke service on Fridays, we have a neurovascular conference. So various different teaching opportunities in the mornings, and then generally start rounding by around 8:30 a.m. And then that can go for, a couple of hours. And then the middle part of the day is really seeing new consults, taking care of your, admitted patients, doing notes, all of those things. By 5 p.m., we sign out to long call. We can kind of get into the nitty gritty of the call system, but I wouldn't focus too much on that. But generally by 5 p.m., most of the residents are signing out to long call, finishing up their tasks, and then going home for the day. Our 5 to 7 period at Ronald Reagan is our long call. So one resident, one PGY2 each day of the week will stay and take care of any new consults that come in between 5 and 7, and then cross cover any of the inpatient concerns for any of our general or stroke patients. And then 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. is the night float system. So again, I think this is one of those things that was implemented for more of a wellness, because sometimes that 24-hour call can be very rough. So instead of doing a 24-hour call and then having a post-call night, we have a night float system at Ronald Reagan, so that at 7 p.m. you are done, typically by 5 p.m. on most days, you're done, can kind of go home, take care of the things you need to do, and know that your patients are being taken care of and all new consults are being addressed. Things are a little bit different at the VA and all of you, which we can kind of get into more of the nitty gritty. But this is like your majority of your time. This is kind of the general day in the life. And then just wanted to kind of show just like an illustration of what things are like. And this presentation will have a lot of pictures, because I think the general impression that I wanted to just kind of impart on everyone is that, even though like any residency program you go to, it's gonna, there's long hours, you're making a lot of tough decisions, and you really want to find a program where even when you're, hard at work during the day, you're surrounded by people that make you happy and make you excited and wanting to learn and bringing you up, even when things are, when there's tough patients or long days, that you're still feeling kind of, you're like you have some positivity that you can find through that. So then to go into kind of our different hospital sites, as we mentioned previously, we have 3 different sites. And I think this is one of the huge benefits of our program. At every single different site, whether that's like all of you, our community site, the VA, or Ronald Reagan, you're seeing like a very different patient population. And the way that you're practicing is a little bit different. And you're seeing the ways that you can work through different hospital systems. So one of our sites, all of you, this is, again, one of those prelim opportunities. So this is the advanced residency. So there'll be 3 positions for interns that want to work at all of you. From the neurology perspective at all of you, we are a consult only service. So we don't have any primary patients. So we, interact with our prelims both in clinic and then also for the 2-week inpatient service. And then, generally this team is set up with a PGY4 senior, a PGY2 neurology resident, sometimes plus or minus a PGY1 prelim that's coming for their 2-week rotation, and then several different psychiatry residents, as well as a bunch of medical students. Our other site, the VA, so we have 2 different VA sites. We have the main campus where our inpatient team works at West LA, which is on the left. And then we have a picture here of the workroom, which is actually really, it looks like the view is not that great. We could have better views in California, but our neurology workroom is actually probably one of the biggest workrooms at the VA hospital. So it's there's tons of room for all of the team, which typically includes a PGY4 senior, 1 or 2 PGY2 juniors, a medicine rotator, and a psychiatry rotator, as well as a couple of medical students. And again, West LA is kind of where the majority of our interns do their prelim year. And so it's nice, you get to kind of, depending on the site that you go to, you are working with all of the same medicine residents that end up consulting us for the next couple of years. So it's nice to kind of get to know everyone And then you're also working with the psychiatry interns that end up coming and rotating with us as well. So it's a nice opportunity to kind of get to know your colleagues. And then our other VA site, which was mentioned previously, is where we do our continuity clinic, which is Sepulveda, which is up in the valley. And I don't know if anyone can recognize from this picture, but the Sepulveda VA is actually where they shoot Grey's Anatomy. So it's kind of cool. Everyone kind of nerds out, you know, anyone that watches Grey's Anatomy nerds out the first time that they go here. Okay. And then we already kind of talked a little bit about Westwood. We can go into more depth about that, but I want to also talk about kind of all the different educational opportunities within the program. So a lot of these opportunities too, you know, one of the other things I will stress about our program, and I think it's something, you know, that is important to look for when you're looking for different programs, is programs that are very responsive to what the residents say is needed. And so, for example, my year when we did PGY2 year, we kind of went straight into, you know, straight out of intern year, straight into PGY2. And you kind of learn, you know, everything, everyone's always really supportive. So it's very, you know, easy to pick things up quickly. However, after our year, we were like, we think there would be a huge advantage of having a boot camp. And then the very next year, we can make it happen. So I think kind of trying to find a program that listens to resident feedback and isn't like listening just for the sake of listening, but is listening in order to implement changes is something that that at least I was looking for when I was looking for programs. So the boot camp has been new for the last 2 years and is still, you know, in the process of like, you know, taking any, you know, feedback from the residents that went through it this year and trying to each year just make it better and better. So that's kind of one of the big new additions. And then one of the things that's been more longstanding, we have Anatomy of the Day every Monday and Tuesday. So the PGY2 will do 5 to 10 minute kind of chalk talk on a random topic, which is very helpful. Med students can kind of ask follow-up questions. Everyone's kind of there, and it's just a good opportunity for the general and stroke team to come together in the morning and kind of chat and learn together. And then morning report follows Anatomy of the Day. So this is generally given by the seniors on the service. So the PGY 3 and 4 will bring up a case and kind of go through. Typically our inpatient attendings will attend morning report. And so, you know, we have a lot of different subspecialty attendings that are really excellent in their fields and they can come. And so typically we'll try to cater our morning report case and kind of do a mystery case that caters to the specialty of the attending that's going to be there. And then it's a great opportunity to kind of pick their brain and kind of say, well, if this was different, you know, what would you do in that situation? So morning report is also something every Monday and Tuesday. And then grand rounds are Wednesday mornings from 9 to 10. And again, this is protected time. This is like forward your pager to your senior. No one is going to try to keep like, that's just like your time to go and learn from all the people that kind of come from across the country to be able to kind of chat and discuss and answer any questions from our residents and also faculty who attend. And then as mentioned, also we have didactics and we have didactics Wednesday. And again, this is part of that protected time. So generally, if you're at the VA or all of you on Wednesday mornings, you just don't go in, you show up at 9 a.m. for grand rounds and you basically stay just doing your protected education until 1 p.m. when you go back to all of you or the VA. And then at Reagan, you come in the morning, you see your own patients since grand rounds and didactics are on campus. And then, you know, 8:50, 8:45, you're excused to walk over. And then you are, again, forwarding your pager, just, you know, able to completely focus on the learning. And then brain cutting is really cool. So this is something when you're on the general service at Reagan. This is on Thursday mornings. So they'll email out 2 cases, you know, the day prior. And like, you know, this is a patient that, you know, was found dead. We don't know what, you know, that sort of thing. And then they go through and you're actually watching them do the autopsy on the brain. So they're cutting the slices. We have our like amazing pathologists who will like kind of point out spots in the brain, say, you know, what is this? You know, sometimes we'll have our incredible neuroradiologist, Dr. Solomon, attend as well. And we have the MRI actually put up on the screen. So we're seeing like the imaging and pathologic correlate like right together live. And so it's a really, really cool opportunity. Oftentimes the seniors that aren't on the general service will just kind of come to watch as well. And then we have several procedures just in general, like while you're on service, including one of the resident-led didactics just in the last couple of years to do like a lumbar puncture clinic. So it's a specific day where that clinic is just doing lumbar punctures to kind of broaden our ability to you're going to get plenty inpatient, but it's just an opportunity to work with some of the attendings that are excellent at lumbar punctures and kind of gain some of that expertise. And then we also have the simulations, which again are incredibly helpful. They used to be more kind of smothered in that first month. And then we got the feedback that it would be helpful if those simulations happened before we even started, and then we can make that happen. So now they occur in the boot camp, the more pressing ones. And then we still have other simulations kind of throughout the year, like a palliative care simulation of like how to have a difficult discussion. We just had our lumbar puncture simulation on Wednesday. And so, anything that you're really interested in learning, like, our program again is very responsive to feedback. So I think there was some thoughts of like, can we do a Botox, simulation? And that was able to happen. And so very open, very much lots of opportunities to do kind of whatever the residents are interested in. Okay. So again, just I think sometimes it can kind of just like come by as like, oh yeah, we have a 4+2 schedule, but I just really want to emphasize the glory of the 4+2 schedule. So, when you're on inpatient, it can be, you can, by the end of like a 4-week period, you can be pretty exhausted. And so having that kind of shift where that after every 4-week period, you're going to have 2 weeks of outpatient, which are 2 weekends that you have off, and just the ability to kind of explore different subspecialties with a more laid back schedule is like incredible. So we just kind of tried to represent that, like, on this left-hand side is your like 4 weeks inpatient. Whereas on the right-hand side, you're on your +2, you're doing more of your kind of like, catching up on life and catching up on sleep and all of those things. What I did also want to stress, though, is even when we're on the 4 weeks on the inpatient side, the thing that I was looking for when I was looking through residency programs was a program that I could come to where I was like happy to go to work, and that, I was surrounded by people that would bring me up and that I would be happy kind of working with and seeing on the day-to-day. And so that's why I wanted to kind of represent that, even though the 4 part of the 4+2 may seem like the more daunting part, as you can see here, these are all like, inpatient pictures. These are all from like the 4 part of the week. And you can see that everyone is still happy and smiling because we just kind of take those little moments and everyone enjoys being around each other. So it makes the 4 weeks go by quicker. And then you can enjoy, outside things on your +2 week, which there are plenty things to do in Los Angeles. So we kind of already, Dr. Fu kind of went over the different tracks that we have. This is probably not a full list because I think there's some people that texted me that I forgot to add in there. But as you can see, we have tons of participation in all of our various tracks. You can see there are multiple people that are in multiple tracks. So if you're interested in several different areas, and outside of just the people that are like fully, participating in these tracks, you can be involved in all of these tracks without necessarily being like, I'm going to attend every 4, if you're like, the most important thing to me is clinician educator, I'm going to go to all of those meetings and I'm going to do all of the things I need to do, but you're also like interested in research or global health, there's no restriction on who can be involved in all of these things. You can go to 1 meeting out of the 4 in the year and, you're going to be welcomed with open arms. So it's very open. And there's, obviously a ton of involvement within the residency. And then again, just to kind of stress this, so these are kind of right before our last contract negotiation. And this is something that now we're already starting to see our union reps kind of outside of Reagan trying to like trying to get everyone's interest and get us to kind of start thinking about these things. But the union is really incredible. Like the union here is something that, I think that there more and more residency programs are starting to have unions, but I think UCLA has one of the best unions in the country. The $12,000 a year housing stipend. I came from going to medical school in Columbus, Ohio, and I was like, this rent bump is going to be pretty significant. But basically, when I was looking for houses, I was just subtracting $1,000 each year because I was like, because $1,000 of this is just paid for by the union. And we also have, like our food stipend. I know there are residents that are like, I could, it's like almost like a challenge. Can you run out of money? And I think that some people have met that challenge, but for the most part, like you will always be able to get food. You can get your medical students food, which is, fantastic and kind of makes them feel more of a part of the team. And so like the food stipend is incredible. The Uber Eats at the VA is fantastic as well. And then again, like tons of benefits, like fertility benefits, paid parental leave, both maternity and paternity. It's really like, you know, the benefits that we get from being a part of the union is really, it's hard to emphasize enough. Okay, so just looking at this kind of map, LA, especially if you're not from here, can be, you know, there's like a lot of like people just say neighborhoods and you're like, I don't know where that is. So just to give you an idea of kind of generally where most of the residents live, we have the 3 black stars. The star in Westwood would be UCLA main campus, and we don't even need to do another star for where the VA is because they're like right next to each other. And then up higher in North Hills, this is going to be our Sepulveda clinic. And then up even higher at the top of the screen is Sylmar. This is where all of you is. And generally, for the most part, these are kind of the blue circles are generally where people live. So I know a lot of people live in Westwood. Those are the people that can like walk, you know, very quickly walk to work. There's also a lot of people that live in Santa Monica that either bike or, you know, take the bus or drive in. Then there's some people that live down in Culver City, which is really cute area, Mid-City West, West Hollywood, and then the Valley, which is like where you can get a little bit more like more space for kind of less price, a little bit more of a drive, particularly to Westwood. But again, this is all kind of generally where people live. And I will say that even though this is generally where people live, like we have residents that live in Long Beach, which is definitely more of a trek. But you know, still doable, especially if you have like a partner at UCI or somewhere else kind of closer to Orange County. But generally, I would say most people live in like Westwood, West Hollywood, Culver, Santa Monica. And then we have a couple people also that live in the Valley. Okay, so life in LA, there is like, I could have done like 15 slides for things to do in Los Angeles. There's really like, you would be hard pressed to run out of things to do. So there's tons of hiking, there's tons of sports. The Griffith Observatory is amazing. There's tons of music, the Walt Disney Concert Hall, the Hollywood Bowl. We're very close to Santa Monica Beach. We're very close to lots of beaches, lots of hiking. I didn't even include on here like all of the mountains that are pretty close. We have several residents that are very into snowboarding. And so like it's maybe, I'm a little time blind, an hour and a half maybe to get to the mountains to like big, maybe I'm exaggerating. I think it's an hour and a half to get to like Big Bear, Mount High, that sort of thing. And then if you're looking to go a little bit further, then you can get over to Mammoth, but that's going to be a couple of hours. So more of like your +2 weekend type of thing. And then in addition, so these are kind of like your general, everyone in LA, just to get a little bit more specific about some of the things that like as residents that we have done. So we have Magic Castle here, and I don't know if we have any Magic fans, but I will give the little hint that we do have an in to Magic Castle because it's an invite-only Magic club, but one of our Peds Neuro residents actually performs at Magic Castle. So very like unique opportunity to be able to go somewhere so exclusive like that. Right, like literally 5-10 minutes away from all of you, they have the Sylmar Wildlife Center where they do have like a sloth. I don't know. People that like sloths will be, you know, very intrigued by that. But tons of wildlife. You can like meet the animals. You can do all of those things. Hollywood Improv and then several other comedy clubs is something we tend to do, you know, as residents. It seems like kind of class determined, like my class in particular is very into improv and comedy shows. And so we've gone to Hollywood Improv many, many times. And then we're very close to Pantages Theater. Hamilton is coming soon. There's like a couple of us that are planning to go to Hamilton, and we've gone to a couple of other plays as well. Then you have, you know, what nightlife. There's no shortage of nightlife in Los Angeles. The Victorian in particular also has like a salsa and a bachata dancing class that some of the residents go to. That's like on Thursday nights. And then Ocean Park, this is like a new thing this year where we have like volleyball Tuesdays where, you know, sometimes it's not even our residents. It's like the husbands of our residents that are just coming and hanging out and doing volleyball on Tuesdays. So just to kind of emphasize that like any niche that you're interested in, you can find it in Los Angeles. We have like cat cafes, you can get to the mountains, you can do hiking, you can do anything outdoors that you want to do. The museums here are incredible. Like if you are interested in it, you can find it here. And you can find other people in the residency that will come with you too. And then just to close it out, I think I have a couple of slides here of just the residents, because I think ultimately, there's a lot of programs that you're going to get a great education for. And I think what I was looking for is actually like a family. Like I was like, I'm going to spend 4 years with the same small group of people. And I want to make sure that that group is supportive and that I want to be around those people. And I am so happy, that I came here and that I've found such wonderful people. And I think you can just kind of tell from all of these pictures, it's like a lot of them, a lot of them are in scrubs and like we're here at the hospital, but a ton of them are like outside of the hospital. Like, let's just get together and let's hang out. Let's go to brunch. Let's go to the movies. Let's go to a comedy show. Let's do an escape room. Really, like, you would think as much as we see each other that on the weekends and the times off, we would be trying to like see other people. But I think that the kind of community that we've been able to build here is like so incredible that everyone, they're like, we've just spent 14 days in a row together. You want to do something this weekend, is kind of the energy that we've been able to kind of captivate. So we got some more pictures. We got tons of therapy pets that come in. We have Christmas decorating out, like hanging out outside of work, going to Universal, going to Disneyland, all of these things that are very close by. More and more. I was like very selective having to kind of pick pictures for the slideshow because there's just, so many different times that we all try to get together and just kind of hang out and do, live our lives outside of just being residents. So again, I think I maybe went a little bit longer than I was expecting to, but again, it's so nice to have you all. We included our chief email here for any questions. We also have an Instagram that you guys can follow with any updates on other opportunities and all of that. But seriously, any questions, feel free to shoot us an email, but we will have a Q&A session at the end of this as well. But again, thanks everyone that was able to make it in person and anyone that's watching online. We're just really excited to have you here and kind of looking into our program.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Noelle. That was great. And I love seeing all the pictures. I know there were many to choose from, so I think you did a pretty good job being a bit selective. We'll head into the Q&A now. And for this portion of the webinar, really, I want to ask all of our residents who are on to turn on their cameras, and we're going to get to know them before we dive into the Q&A. So maybe we can start by introducing a couple of our residents who are here, and they can tell you maybe who they are, what PGY year they're in, and maybe, I don't know, one fun fact about yourself or UCLA or whatever fun fact you would like to share with our applicants. All right, Claire, you're up first.
Hello, everyone. I'm Claire. I'm a PGY2. I'm on my +2 right now, so I am having a great time. What's my fun fact?
I don't know. Maybe tell us where you went to med school. I don't know.
Yeah, I went to St. Louis University for undergrad and med school, so I'm a Billiken for life now. I guess I'm also Bruin, so maybe I'm both. But fun fact, I was raised vegetarian, so I've never had meat before, which is actually leads into a fun fact about UCLA that I really appreciated when I was interviewing and came to visit, was that the food in the cafeteria is actually really great, and we get tons of money through the union to like I get lunch and dinner, or breakfast, lunch, and dinner every time I'm on inpatient at Reagan, and there's tons of options. So like as a vegetarian, I like have not even begun to try everything that they have to offer.
Great. Adnan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adnan. I'm one of the PGY3s. I am initially from Toronto, Canada. I moved to Chicago for medical school. I went to the Chicago Medical School, and now I am in my third year in LA. Really enjoying it. I love this program. And I will be going into work in about an hour. I'm the night float. But really happy to join the show and be here with you guys.
Thanks. All right, I'm gonna leave the team room for last. So let's go to the first Eric, which is actually the real Eric.
Valerie, what are you doing? I shared with her my link to
I know
analysts, and so she just shows up as me as a default. But
all right, go ahead, Eric. Tell
I'm
us
the
about
real,
yourself.
yeah, Eddie Juarez, born and raised in a small town in deep rural Southwest Georgia. Country boy at heart, maybe a redneck perhaps, but I'm actually a big Latino. I'm proud of it too. I went to undergrad at Harvard, and then I was able to do my medical school at the Medical College of Georgia. And then by the match gods that be, I was fortunate to come out here to Los Angeles to undergo my residency training, which has always been a dream as a Latino. And yeah, it's been a blast. 3 years in, I'm having a great time.
Thanks. All right. Let's go to Mallory, also known as not Eric.
Hi, I'm not Eric. I am Mallory. I'm also a PGY3 in the same class as Adnan, and we actually did our intern year together before it was all at the VA. And I'm from Virginia, went to Virginia Tech for medical school before coming out here, and I guess like the fun things that I would plug right now are one that like I am on the neuro ICU right now. And I got out a little bit early. And what I am going to do right after we're done here is swim some laps, guys, because we have this awesome rec center that you can join. And I didn't know this pool was here until yesterday, and I'm very excited to learn about it. So that is my main fun fact that I would like to share.
I love it. Yes, just right there on campus, Sunset Rec Center. All right, we'll go to the stroke team room where we have Elaine, Maya, and Yuxing joining us. Guys, want to take some turns introducing yourselves?
Yeah, I can start. I'm Elaine. I'm one of the PGY3s. I'm currently stroke senior. And I'm from Texas. I did my intern year in Texas, and then I'm doing the rest of my neurology residency here in California. I think I just wanted to say that, we're on stroke, so we're always like waiting for the next coach stroke, but we still manage to have a good time. We're all here showing up, and I'll pass it on to Maya.
I'm Maya. I am from Pennsylvania. I did my undergrad in medical school there and luckily matched at UCLA to come to the West Coast. So very happy to be here. I just thought of a fun fact. Fun fact, I zeroed out on the stroke team right now. So I have discharged 2 of my patients. So they were my only 2.
Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Yuxing, PGY2 junior on stroke team. I'm from Florida, so I went to med school at University of Florida. One of the fun things about LA is that there's a lot of very friendly squirrels that will gather around you, which did not really happen in Florida because there are gators and other predators around. But all the squirrels really like being fed, just don't overfeed them. So then they will be, I guess, their BMI will go to a point where yeah, it's been good. We also haven't had any cold strokes yet today.
Oh my goodness, you guys are having a lucky day on the stroke service. Well, I think that maybe leads into some of the great questions we have here in the Q&A that I'd like to post you all. And maybe I'll actually start with Adnan, who's on night float, because one of the questions we got was how often do you have to do night float in the program? And how many patients typically are you covering when you're on night float? Like what's the typical night float?
Yeah. So I know there's like a lot of people on the call, and so people might not be super familiar with night float and how things work. So generally, in all the residency programs that you guys are probably looking at, there are generally 2 or 3 types of flavors of how hospitals are covered overnight. One will be the very classic like 24, 28-hour call where a resident will stay from morning till like usually the next morning. Our program doesn't have any site that has 24-hour call, which was actually a priority for me when looking at programs. The 2 other or call systems are night float as well as home call. And we can talk about home call as well. But essentially, night float is a resident whose job is specifically showing up in the evening and then leaving the next morning. The way we do it at our main hospital, Ronald Reagan, is the night float will show up 5 nights in a row, have typically 5 nights in a row, then have the 2 nights off during the weekend, and then five nights in a row. So we'll go for like a 2-week stretch of which they're doing 5 nights and then 5 nights. In terms of the burden, I would say on average, and someone can also correct me, and I know Elaine is laughing because she feels like I have a white cloud. I would say anywhere between like 2 and 4 patients is like the average. Um, there are some nights where you get nothing or like nothing like really significant, and that's really nice. And then there are going to be some nights where like you hit like 6 or 7, and it ends up being like a longer, tougher night. But the nice thing is like in the morning, if you've had like a long morning, or if you've had a long night, like everyone is like very receptive to it and tries to get you out on time and tries to speed things along for you. That's just part of the culture. But yeah, I would say about 2 to 4 patients, like new patients, overnight, either through the ED or consulted on patients that are already on the inpatient service on another team service.
Yeah, and then you're cross-covering for the general and stroke primary patients overnight. And then I'll just add so that 2 weeks of night float. So our PGY2 residents don't start doing night float until they've done the first 3 months of their residency training. So we really try to make sure they get a lot of experience rotating with, during the day, taking the stroke codes at our 3 different clinical sites before they dive into the night float rotation. And during that PGY2 year, they'll usually do anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks of night float total. And then in the PGY 3 and 4 year, it's just one of those 2-week blocks. And then the seniors also take turns covering those weekend, 2 nights of night float throughout the year, but divided up among all of the residents. I haven't added it up, but it's not a huge burden of night float rotation in total. Thank you. Along those same lines, and I'm gonna, our stroke team today seems to be having a special day that I don't want to jinx, but there's a question about sort of like what the average workload is on the different services at the different sites, and a question about if there's a good combination of sort of bread and butter neurology and maybe some more zebras that our residents get to see. So if somebody wants to talk about sort of the general workload and patient mix on our different clinical sites.
Sorry, I thought you were going to talk.
Oh, yeah, we can talk as a stroke team.
Just because, right?
Yeah, we are having a weird time because we currently only have 2 patients on our service, and that is not common. I think, generally, like on the stroke service at least, it really is variable, but I would say typically it's like somewhere between 5 and 15, maybe averaging on like 10. So yeah, we're just, this is an anomaly. And in terms of like strokes, we definitely get very straightforward cases. We get to see really cool things like giving TPA and thrombectomies. We get to sit in and watch them. And then we have a lot of good interface with like the neuro ICU after they have TPA or thrombectomy, and neuro interventional radiologists after they do the procedure. So on that side, it's really cool. And then I mean, I might let somebody else like talk about general neurology. But on average, general neurology tends to have more patients, probably usually greater than 10. But it really can vary.
Noelle, do you want to chime in on the typical general neurology service? I think usually there's fewer primary patients on general neurology, but more consult turnover on the general neurology service.
I would say that typically normally there's maybe like around 2, like a more heavy, primary service would be like 2 to 4 primaries. There have been times where it's been more. And then there's a lot of consults, but there's a lot of turnover. So we have a lot of kind of like one and done consults, because the way that it works is that if there's a stroke code called and it's not actually a stroke, normally it's something kind of like, oh, it's like person got hypoxic or like person has a UTI. So those are like kind of one and done. So the list actually like can look longer during certain times of the day. But I would say also it's probably around like anywhere from like 4 to like, also probably like 4 to 15, but just like a large portion of them are turning over each day. Like you'll get down to like 7, And then the next morning, you know, you're back up at 11, then you come down and kind of accumulate during the day. And for the kind of bread and butter versus more exotic cases, I would say that like you know, depending on the sites too, UCLA is going to be the place where like we have patients getting transferred in from all over Southern California. Like we don't know what's happening. We think they need this like really aggressive treatment. We think they need, you know, like they need like cyclophosphamide. We don't know. We can't send this test. We can't do this biopsy. So there are like absolutely these zebra cases where that are like incredibly like in, you know, incredible discussions of like everyone, med students are like, what about this random thing? Like definitely we see that at Reagan. And not only at Reagan, you also see that, you know, you also see that at all of you where it's like different things that you're not going to see. Like we see neurosister psychosis all the time. And then you're at UCLA and you ask the pathologist, like, have you ever seen this? They're like, that's so rare. And you're like, I just saw two in the last month. So like you're also getting your exotic cases there, but then you're also getting a ton of bread and butter. You're getting like bread and butter both at UCLA and all of you, and then also at the VA. So I think that you have a good mix of bread and butter. And then you have like when you're at Reagan and you're on general, you're having like these zebras, and then you get zebras that pop in to the VA and to all of you too, that kind of are like, okay, good. Like we can spend a lot of time talking about this. And so I think it is a really good mix. You're probably going to see more zebras than maybe like some other places because we're such like a highly referred place. But I think that it doesn't take away from the bread and butter that we're also seeing on a day-to-day basis.
Great. I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in, but I want to give Edith an opportunity to introduce herself. Hi, Edith. So maybe if you can just say your name and your PGY level and maybe where you're from. And then I asked everybody earlier to give us a fun fact of like something you love about UCLA or Los Angeles or a fun fact about yourself to share with our applicants.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Edith. I'm one of the PGY3s, originally from Taiwan, but grew up in Orange County, went to Berkeley for college and USC for medical school. So now I'm in UCLA. Have been in California pretty much my whole life aside from Taiwan. I really like Los Angeles. It's a very diverse patient population, a lot of different things to do for fun as well. I really like our Boba Fridays. I think it really boosts morale. There's hiking, you can go to the beach within the same day, and I think that's really unique, and it's been really great.
All right, and I also see another Eric has joined. Maria, tell us about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Madia Husseini. I am PGY3. I'm originally from Maryland. I went to Hopkins for undergrad and Temple for med school, and I moved cross country to come to UCLA. I absolutely love it over here. I would say my favorite thing about UCLA is I think it has a really good culture of compassionate care. That was something that was like really important to me when I was trying to figure out residency programs. And also the beautiful, beautiful sunsets in Los Angeles. I love watching the sunset in Malibu.
Thank you both so much for joining this evening. I am going to, I don't know if Mallory has already jumped in the pool, but we have a question about somebody who might be interested in exploring neurointerventional radiology as a career and what opportunities there might be in our program. I will say our stroke program and neuro IR department here is world renowned and really has done some pioneering work in the field. So Mallory, tell us about your experience pursuing these interests.
So I'm sorry, I had to move to catch the sun. It's hard out here in California. We really get our steps in. No, Dr. Keener was handing over to me because I'm applying right now into neuro IR, and it's part of why I wanted to come here actually. And I really think it's such a fast growing field. Obviously, a lot of people are interested in it. What makes the UCLA program so special and unique beyond what I realized when I was applying is how interdisciplinary our department is. So there's a lot of avenues into intervention. And one of the major ones is through stroke neurology now. And I actually just had the opportunity this year to go to SNIS, which is one of the big conferences for neurointervention.
which is still primarily like that conference is sort of led by neurosurgery. And I came to really appreciate as I talked to people from other programs and other places how wonderful the relationship that our providers have here. We're a pretty even split of interventional radiology, neurology, neurosurgery, and some of our interventionalists serve as our stroke attendings while we are on service. So you get to know them extremely well. And if you are interested in neurointervention, like you can get in there and do a rotation. And once you've kind of gotten used to it, they'll have you scrub in on procedures. They will like text you offhand about interesting cases for you to look up. And it's a really beautiful relationship to get to have and a really nice professional environment that I think is pretty rare and very special. So I definitely for that pathway, I think you cannot go find a better place than UCLA.
Great. One of the other, I would say, themes of questions that is coming through the Q&A this evening is about sort of like where residents live and how they get around. And, about traveling between the 4 sites that, we pointed out on that map. And, the rumors about LA traffic are real. We do have bad traffic here. I will acknowledge that. But I think that, once you get to know the city and know your way around, and because often you're going against the flow of traffic depending on the time of day, it's pretty navigable. But I don't know that anyone gets to all of you without a car. But I'll let you guys chime in. What has been your experiencing, having to go between the different sites and sort of how you balance that and sort of navigate the LA traffic?
Yeah, like Dr. Keener said, oftentimes you're going against traffic during rush hour. So you have that going for you. But yeah, it can be a little a little overwhelming, like going between sites initially, but it's not as bad as you think. I will say that it's not too uncommon for you to go from here in West Los Angeles at UCLA to go from one continuity clinic here to all of you the next afternoon. So you'll find yourself in those situations, not too uncommonly, but even if like you're tired, for example, yeah, you can drive. But what again, kind of referring to one of the wonderful things about our strong union, which I always every time that I've joined during these webinars, I always point out that I would argue that our union is the strongest in the country, our resident union. We have the Uber fatigue program that, for example, if you're tired, and for me, I'm tired all the time, so I've started to use it generously. I like you can use like literally you can use I did it overnight. Like over the past 3 days, I used the Uber to commute to and fro from all of you. And yeah, depending on what time of day that you're commuting, getting from West Los Angeles, Westwood to all of you can be as quick as 30 minutes, or it can be as long as 70 minutes, 80 minutes. But that's why you have this Uber program as an option. So for example, I took the Uber during that 80-minute drive, and I was able to, I guess, like chart check on a patient that I was to see once I arrived at all of you, and it made my like I guess my visits, my encounter with the patient all the more quicker. So you have options. So yeah, you can drive. I'm not sure if Mallory bikes to all of you. She loves to bike everywhere else. I'm not sure if she all of
Yeah,
you.
I was gonna make a plug. I was gonna say like the traffic is annoying, I think, if you're going far away, but you can also structure your life in a way that makes you not even have to deal with that for the most part. All of you is the site that everyone's kind of referring to where you're going against the traffic. Like people are coming into the city in the morning when we're headed to clinic, so it's not so bad. But it is the only place that I have to drive to. I chose to live really close by so that I can bike, and there's a bike lane that is pretty great that runs the entire distance from my house up past the VA and then on to UCLA. So it's very feasible to not have to deal with that if you are passionate about living in the West Side or in Santa Monica, which is not such a bad gig.
I would. I also want to like mention one thing. One part of the question was sort of where everyone lives, and I think Noelle did a really great job early on, showing the map and giving you like a really quick orientation. I would say approximately 80% of the residents live in like the West LA region. So as a result, getting to Ronald Reagan for a lot of people is about like a 10 to 15-minute drive. Getting to the West LA VA is usually about like a 10-minute drive. And that covers, I would say, a good 75%, 80% of, your clinical time throughout the like your entire residency. Getting to all of you during the daytime, you're always going against traffic. I live in West LA. It's never taken me longer than 35 minutes. I think maybe one time there was like some closure. But outside of that, never longer than 35 minutes. At nighttime, I think it can be variable. But yeah, Eric did mention the Uber fatigue that a lot of us definitely take advantage of. So I think it's super manageable for the amount of commotion that people make about LA traffic. I don't get it. I'm from Toronto and I lived in Chicago. I think it's pretty comparable, to be honest.
I think the times that'll annoy you are less so when you're going to work and more so when you have a friend from high school who lives in Koreatown and you think that that will make you neighbors. But actually that's like 45 minutes away.
Yeah, LA is a big city with many different neighborhoods. I think getting to explore them is one of the benefits of living here, but learning when you're gonna make that trip across town to Koreatown is the key. All right. I want to introduce Alexa, who's just joined us. Alexa, I was just asking each resident to introduce themselves, tell us where you're from, and tell us one fun fact. This can be a fun fact about you or about living in LA or about our program that you want to share with our applicants.
So my name's Alexa. I'm one of the PGY2s. I grew up in the LA area originally, but kind of went all over for undergrad and med school. So I'm really happy to be back in LA now. A fun fact about me, I guess, that relates to LA, I was a college sailor, and I'm now getting back into the sailing gig here in LA. And I actually live in Marina Del Rey, which is like right next to where all the boats are. So I'm really loving that part of living here.
Great. Thank you so much for joining. I'm gonna take a moment to take some of these questions for myself, if that's okay. But there are several questions about sort of what we're looking for in an applicant, or maybe in a personal statement, how the program signals or geographic preferences might affect someone's application. So I'm gonna field those questions sort of all at once a little bit. So I would say, as you can see, meeting our residents here today, we have residents with diverse interests from diverse backgrounds from all across the country and even sometimes around the world. And so we're not looking for any one thing in our residents. What we really want to see, and I think what all of our residents share, is a passion for neurology and a real commitment to pursuing their goals and interests. I think we're also looking for people who we see as future leaders within our field, so people who are really motivated to make a difference. And whether that's in clinical care, advocacy, research, global health, whatever career path that might be, I think, we're looking for that spark, that dedication, that passion. We don't have any sort of graduation year cutoffs or step score cutoffs. We perform a holistic review of all applications to our program, really trying to look for those qualities that we think will help our residents be successful. I will say just to the program signals and geographic preferences. So these are opportunities in ERAS for you to highlight to programs you're interested in, reasons why you might want to go to a specific geographic region. There's a text box there where you can sort of describe your rationale. I think if you have no geographic preference, that's a great place to explain why, saying that you're not looking to go to a specific part of the country, but are just looking for, the best program that matches sort of your goals. So I think I would encourage you to use your signals and your geographic preferences. We take those into account sort of, maybe at the last phase of our screening process, after we've done our holistic review process, if we're trying to decide on who to offer our limited interview spots to, it might be that someone's signaling our program or highlighting our region and their geographic preference might be sort of the tiebreaker factor as we're deciding who to invite for interviews. But we don't screen out based on geographic preference or program signaling. I will say this year, there's a change in the signaling process, right? So you guys will have 8 signals to give out, which is a huge increase from prior years. And so this will be the first time for us too, seeing how that impacts sort of how, the number of signals might impact the process. So we're in it here with you, but we certainly don't screen out any applications based on those factors, nor do we give them like primary weight in our application review process. When it comes to personal statements, that's really your opportunity to allow us to hear your voice. So be authentic. Tell us what motivates you. Tell us your story. That's really your opportunity to share your narrative, your journey, what makes you unique, what you're looking for, what your goals are for the future. I think that's the most important thing that we want to see coming through in the personal statement, not a summary of your CV or other experiences that you've highlighted elsewhere in the application. And for letters of recommendation, I think it's always best to have a letter from someone who knows you well and can really speak to your qualities, than to have a sort of generic letter from somebody who maybe has the name recognition, like the chair of the department, for example. If the chair of the department knows you really well, that's great, but it's much more valuable to us to hear someone speak about who you are as a person and really attest to your strengths and what you'll bring to our program. So I think hopefully that addresses many of the questions regarding sort of what we're looking for in our applicants. I think the faces on the screen here today are probably the best answer to that. Let me know, I guess, in the chat, in the Q&A, if there are other questions along the lines of applications. I'm going to send it back to the residents now for this really great question, which is, one is the most unique aspect of your program that you think sets it apart from others? And if you had to choose just one feature, what would it be? Thank you.
I guess I'll start. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that I could talk about. Yeah, I think a big one or two big things that I want to highlight are
He can't pick just one. It's going to be two.
no,
All right, go ahead. 2. We'll give you 2.
Yes, like one of them is, geez, man, you're gonna see a lot of different patient populations. It's already built in the system. You're gonna see, a good number of, wealthy, more privileged patients at Ronald Reagan, and then at all of you're gonna see more under-resourced, lower income patients. Typically a lot of immigrants there. It's beautiful, really beautiful. And then at the VA, you're gonna treat a lot of your veterans. So that's one thing that I really enjoy about the structure of our training is getting to deal with a lot of different patients, and all of them like really are grateful for our care. Another one is, I think I answered it to this anonymous attendee person that keeps like answering questions or giving questions. It's like, does the program support residents through life events such as having a family or personal emergency? Yes, 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 yes. I will say that it's kind of built in our system as well, the wellness committee, right? We have your back. Dr. Keener has your back, and so if things like come up out of the blue that need like urgent tending to, it'll likely happen. So yeah, wellness is a big deal in our program.
All right, thanks, Eric, for those 2. Does anybody else want to chime in with another?
Yeah, I was thinking about this actually. What's today? Thursday, yesterday. I think one thing that I've really loved as a fresh PGY2 is the Wednesday didactics. And I don't think I put enough stock into that when I was like deciding on residency, but I'm so grateful for it now. But we, instead of having like noon lectures, every day we have all of our lectures together as has been already presented, but to remind you guys, Wednesday morning, all of the PGY2s are expected and encouraged to go, and all of our pages are actually covered. I know sometimes there are like people say, "Oh, your noon lecture is covered," but you never really feel like relieved. It's such a long period of time. It's 4 hours, and it truly is covered because the seniors walk into Wednesday morning expecting to be like the only person on the team, and there's not even a question of whether you get released or not. Like you will be there by 9. And it's a time that not only you actually just get to sit and learn in peace, which is so rare in residency training, but you also get to see each other and you get to just kind of like look at the other PGY2s in the eyes and be like, how are you doing? Well, how are you doing? And there's a lot of support just in that alone. And so I think like walking into the week, it can get really hectic. Oh, sorry, my phone almost died. It can get really hectic, but knowing that Wednesday morning, even if I go in and round like on stroke service, we'd round and then at 9 we would go. It's like this peaceful feeling of having 4 hours to just like relax and learn. And that's super special. And we get free food during lunch at that time. It's great. But I do think it makes it really unique. And the people who are presenting are often residents. And sometimes I'm like, oh, well, I've had didactics all through my career so far, and I zone out or I get bored. But it's like there are our own people presenting to us about things that really matter and are really helpful in patients. So all of us are super engaged. Like it's not like there's people, on their computer in the back typing or people like hanging out on their phone all the time. Like we are all really listening and engaged because it's our own people giving us this information that's really vital to our learning. So it's been way better than I even expected, and I think it's a huge perk of the program.
I just want to like in a culmination, sort of what we've already been hearing. I think the biggest thing here is at the end of the day, we're all coworkers, but it feels like so much more than that. I think there is a huge priority in supporting each other, both personally as well as professionally. And I think we all very mutually take that um, to like a very high level of importance. And it feels really good to all be on the same page about that. And I think it's just part of the culture, and I think it's really important when you join a program that is going to be relatively hectic and you're in it for 4 years to feel that kind of support.
I'd take that even further and say, like obviously our co-residents are our family, our program director is our family. It's very, I think that's something you'll hear at this program and on your interview day. But another thing that really struck me that made me want to come here after I did a sub-I was the way that the faculty interact with us is very much based in like mutual respect, but it's very relaxed. Like I'm never feeling that I'm in a very like overly structured environment or that I can't speak my mind or bring up a concern that I have. And I think that's a really big difference, especially if you're coming from the East Coast or you're coming from another big name place. I think it's really special that like we have these world-renowned people and they will just be like, how was your barbecue this weekend? It's great.
Mallory, I kept thinking about when I kept answering the stroke phone. I don't think I understood the stroke phone at the first day of our rotation, and I had it, and I kept answering to like these world renowned stroke attendings, being like stroke team, and they'd be like,
Yeah,
hey,
you're
can
like,
we
"Who is
run?
this?"
They'd be like, hey, can we run the list? And I'd be like, who is this? And it'd be like, this is Dr. Noor. Can we run the list? I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
She
no,
said
and
it to back up Mallory's
yeah,
point.
all wonderful.
I kind of want to piggyback off of that and say that on the general team, the attendings kind of switch off every 2 weeks. But what's really cool is that each attending is like has their own subspecialty. And so on the service, sometimes the stars align and you'll get a headache patient and if the attending on is a headache doctor and you get to do like an occipital nerve block like right then and there in the inpatient setting. And usually that's done outpatient. Or, the next week, you're still on general and the next attending is like a neuromuscular attending and you have like a myasthenia gravis patient who's in crisis and you get to pick their brain about what exactly is their method of approaching a patient like this. And I think that is just so cool. And you really get that one-on-one interaction on rounds that you kind of building off of what Claire and Mallory said, like you can take outside of the inpatient setting. So like when I go to clinic, like when on my +2, I'll see those same attendings in clinic and I'm like, oh, hey. And like, this is what happened to that patient after you left. And like, you kind of gonna continue the rapport and get to know them even outside the hospital, which I think is really special and nice. And then on top of that, like, you know, you really get to know the other faculty too. And so whenever, for example, you're trying to like page for like an EMG to be done inpatient, you know the attending, either because you worked with them or you had to staff with them on your long call. So it makes it a little bit less scary and you know everybody and everybody's so friendly.
Yeah, I would just kind of emphasize on that there are different programs, and there are some programs where there's like a select number of attendings that are like kind of like neurohospitalists that run the inpatient services. And I think that's one of the things that makes UCLA unique, is because you do get that, like, even if when you're inpatient, like outside of your +2 week, you're still getting subspecialty exposure, because like all the attendings, we very like, you know, we cater which attendings get to, you know, get to serve inpatient, because everyone wants to. Everyone at UCLA wants to work with the residents, and they're like excited to get their 2 weeks of inpatient. And so it's competitive. And so if there are, you know, if there's ever a situation where we're like, maybe this isn't the, you know, those things are adjusted for. And so the people that get to, you know, be our inpatient attendings are excellent teachers, excellent mentors, and you get that little flavor of what their subspecialty is, even when you're on inpatient. So even if there aren't like movement patients on service, they'll give like a movement lecture, or even if there aren't headaches that are coming in, they'll give a headache lecture. So you're getting that subspecialty exposure, and everyone has like, they're like, okay, these are these are the attendings in whichever specialty. You can think of any subspecialty. And so even if you have a headache attending and there's a bunch of neuromuscular, you're like, I could call X, Y, or Z. I call any of these 4 attendings because one of us has worked with them because they're on inpatient, and one of us has staffed in clinic. And the amazing thing about this program is that everyone is so willing, like just because they're not inpatient at that moment, our specialty providers who are world renowned will come in to see a patient to help out. We'll talk to you on the phone for an hour, like walk me through your differential and let me kind of pick your brain, you know, that sort of thing. And I feel like that's something that we get because those subspecialty providers come and work with us inpatient. And so I think that, you know, that's one of the things that you don't see at all programs, and that is a huge advantage of, like, you know, even when you're inpatient, you're getting subspecialty exposure, and you're really getting the expertise of someone that's like world renowned in their field to like guide your care. And even if they're not available in service at that time, they're still available. So that's like a pretty incredible, like kind of like resource and educational kind of thing that we can always reach for.
All right. I'm trying to keep an eye on the clock. We have a little bit more time left. One of the next questions is about, was asking about our clinician educator track. And maybe I'll actually ask Adnan to chime in his experience, because he took over as sort of the lead resident designing our neurology boot camp this year as his education project. So maybe you can just speak a little bit, though, as to what the opportunities are to get involved in education as a resident.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's important to note that each of the tracks give us an opportunity to all come together and spitball ideas, but there's so much flexibility in terms of what you want to do as a project, or how many projects you want to do, or how big your projects, you know, how big they need to be, because essentially there are so many things that can always be improved, or things that we're always, you know, talking about, that, hey, it would be really cool if we try to explore this. And our goals are always, from at least the things that I've been looking at, is things that will help make our experience better, either the residents or the medical students that we work with. And then how can we also take all of that and make it quantifiable to maybe present in an abstract, or do something like make it academic. And so I can give like a few examples. So Dr. Keener mentioned that we started this year was the second year that we had our resident boot camp, and I was able to play a part in, you know, making some of the changes or improvements based on the surveys that we did last year. And I think we got really good feedback from that, and it's something that we plan to carry forward. Another thing that we are doing, actually, Elaine and I we are trying to spearhead this professional development track, which is hopefully a way for us as residents to better understand what our careers can look like outside of residency, outside of the scope of academic medicine, because that's something that we get a lot of. And so I think the goal is for us to just try to explore any nook and cranny that we can through these projects that can be big or small or whatever it is. And there's a lot of flexibility and there's a lot of support for us to do that. So I think it's like a great way, if anything, just to get our mind off of just clinical medicine and think about things as a whole.
Yeah, I'll just add, I think, Dr. Flippen mentioned in his welcoming remarks sort of what a critical role our residents play in teaching our medical students who rotate on their core clinical rotations in their second year of medical school here at UCLA. We also, have wonderful sub-Is that rotate on our service as well. And our residents really get a lot of experience teaching them, and year over year get shout outs and awards from the medical school for the teaching that happens on the service. Our medical students also get sort of some courses where they're introduced to neurology, and our residents participate in leading those courses, teaching the simulations, helping them in the lumbar puncture sim. And so there are a lot of opportunities to get involved in education if that's your area of interest. And our medical students really love working with our residents. We get amazing feedback from the students about the teaching that our residents provide. All right, let's go to another question here. So somebody is asking, what are some things that you feel like you've given feedback on that we're working to improve in the program, or that you gave feedback that we did improve in the program if you're a PGY4? So a question about, sounds like everyone feels that, the faculty listens to your concerns. Is there anything, we're working on towards improvement that you want to share?
I would say there are a ton of things that I could just kind of list off from this category. I think every single year there are like different changes that are implemented based on the feedback. Like it's a very fast moving kind of process where it's like one year we're like, this is the feedback, and then changes are like immediately implemented the next year. So I think that flexibility is really key. I think some of the big ones this year that you'll have to kind of stay tuned. We didn't really go into a lot about night float, but that was, home call, but that was something in this last year where, everyone has their different preferences, like whether, staying at the hospital is one thing, but like being able to go home and take call from home is a big advantage for some people. But it also, there was also a degree of burden that the residents expressed. And so we got that feedback last year, and then this year we immediately implemented like a pilot program that's going to start like in the next 2 months, where we added a new rotation for a resident that's solely covering the night float to kind of relieve that burden off of the PGY2s, 3s, and 4s that all participate in the kind of home call pool. So that's just kind of like one example. And, it's not always easy to find the solution right away, but I think the thing that I love about the program is that it's very open to like trying, like, let's try this out and see if it works. So that's something that we implemented just this year. I think there's another thing that's kind of in the process now of like, hey, our night float system, the way it's working now, sometimes there's like, people are waiting too long before they're able to go to sleep, but after their night float shift while they're waiting to staff. And so like we're already in the process of implementing like a new kind of strategy to kind of combat that. And, what way can we tweak the way that we do things in order to like address these concerns that sometimes people are like having to like wait and staff at like 9:30 and they're trying to go to bed at 9 type of thing. So those are two kind of like bigger program-wide things that like the chiefs would be in charge of. But then you even have like smaller projects within, whereas like, we see a lot of neuroimmunology. Those tend to be like our challenging cases, right? Where it's like a mystery and you're like, we really like want the expertise of someone that is like renowned in that field and that like has much more experience when we're trying to figure out like, okay, We don't necessarily know what this is. Should we send out on disease modifying? Like these kind of complex, intricate questions. And so one of our residents was like, hey, this seems like a gap. Like we're always emailing because like I said, our attendings are so reachable that like I would say maybe once a week, we're emailing like our neuroimmunology specialist, like, hey, what do we do? No, there's never like a I'm too busy. It's always an answer. It's always a call. It's always like, let me go over the chart. But it's like, should we streamline this? And then so this year we've added like a neuroimmunology case conference where we can submit the cases ahead of time for either outpatient or inpatient to our neuroimmunology specialists and discuss them all together, and everyone can learn from them. It's not like a direct question from the general team to neuroimmunology. It's like a conference where everyone can attend and say, how would I handle this situation? So I think every time there's like, you know, a problem identified, it really is, okay, like what can we do to make a solution? And if we find a solution that's feasible, like it's very quickly implemented. And so I think, you know, I think that really if there's no problem that can't be addressed, like we just have to come up with a creative way that's like within our bounds of control. And as long as that's the situation, like everyone is always willing to make adjustments, and like the program isn't like like we've been doing this a million years this way, we can't make changes. The other thing we just changed this year is that, you know, we used to have like a golden weekend system at all of our sites. And then we got some feedback that like the 14 days at Reagan in particular can be more exhausting, right? You have like, you know, 12 days on and 2 days off. And, you know, we heard that maybe like it gets kind of tiring. We all knew it because we lived it. So by the end of those 12 days, it got tiring. So this year we switched it and we said, if that's the case, let's switch it 6 days on, 1 day off. And let's see if people like that better. And if we do, we'll make that change permanent. So everything is always like very much in flux based on what the residents want. So like there, I could kind of just go like on and on for the millions of things, like little changes even that we make. But I think that's what makes a program, like a program doesn't fit the same class for 10 years. Like things change and the program needs to evolve. And I think our program is like very excellent at evolving and like gathering the feedback and then implementing changes.
All right. Thank you so much, Noelle. In the interest of time, because we have 8 minutes left in our webinar, I want to ask my favorite question as we wrap up. This came up from in a Q&A from a prior webinar, but it was such a wonderful question that that I've decided we should do it every single year. And so we're going to go around, and I want each of you to say one word to describe your co-residents. I'll give you all a second to think about that.
Well,
all right, Eric's going first.
I'll start with the answer that I gave last year, which is in Spanish, for those who may be of Mexican descent, like pretty much the Mexican equivalent to badass, which is like cabrón, chingón, things like that. So that's my one word.
Love it.
I'll share my answer from last year, and it was normal.
All right, you can read into that however you wish, I guess. And you don't have to use your same answer as last year. I'm gonna put that out there.
Oh, I was gonna use my answer from last year, which was family. I feel like it still applies even now. So I think I still want to use it.
I was on the other end, I guess, last year or in my intern year. So I will say supportive. I feel very supported in all my rotations, even just for like wellness. Elaine made sure we went outside to like eat in the sunshine today. And we actually got to eat with our general team too. So stroke and general were outside. So it's very nice.
And those friendly squirrels, right? You should.
I guess I'll say that we're all very adaptable. Like we go to a lot of different sites, have different experiences, but we're able to kind of grow into that role, especially now that we're starting PGY 2 year and going through all of these different rotations. I feel like all of us have our different ways to deal with stressful situations, and we're really able to get comfortable with that very quickly.
I'm gonna go with fun and entertaining. I just feel like I'm always laughing at something, either on the WhatsApp group or in lecture or something. I'm just always just having fun with whoever is around me, and it really makes work not bad at all. I think, yeah, it's just been really great.
I love that.
Go for it, Alexa.
Mallory.
I see that on mute. I see it. Do it.
I was going to say it might be a little cheesy, but awe-inspiring because there's always something that like one of my co-residents drops some fact that I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about because that is like a foreign language to me and you're so smart. Or they're incredibly kind and supportive and they really we get each other through this program and that's really what you need. So
Yeah, I even feel when I work our residents that I learn from them and am inspired by them. So I love that. All right, Mallory.
I was gonna say valuable, both because like I think the people in this program are very really like my family and my community here as a person who's a transplant, and a lot of us are coming here without like family roots or a built-in system. But I also think valuable because like one of the things about our program that's so wonderful is I think we're relatively well taken care of, relatively not abused. So I just think everybody is valuable, both in their inherent quality and in the way that they are treated. They are valued.
Madia, I see you. Yeah, ready to unmute. Go ahead.
I will describe my co-residents as graceful.
I like that. Claire.
I had two words, Maddie, and one of them was graceful. So you already took that one. And I specifically was thinking about the seniors I've been recently interacting with, and especially Edith had some crazy nights and would just hand off like the phone in like this lovely, kind voice. And I'm like, are you okay? She did it with such grace, and I just wanted to give her a shout out for that. I would say, I think it's already been mentioned, but dependable. I think like anytime anyone needs anything, we'll like put it in the chat, and 30 seconds later, two people have responded with the information that was requested. And like, especially, I know the question was about our class, but my class, I feel like if anyone needs support, like there's a line of like people ready to like give information or like backup, and I love that.
All right, Noelle.
Yeah, I was gonna say kind of along those same lines. I think advocates, like not only for patients, but for each other. Like our residents you'll like often be like, hey, we should, you'll hear juniors say like, hey, can we get them home? They had a rough night. Like it's not just advocating for patients. It's supportive in a way of like, hey, let's give them more time off, or like, I'll take this extra patient because like they had a harder day yesterday. And so I think advocating for both patients and amongst each other.
That's wonderful. All right. Well, I want to thank all of you for joining our webinar this evening. I want to give a huge shout out to our residents for sharing their experiences, answering our questions, and supporting one another. They certainly are the highlight of this program. I think our residents really, create the culture of our program, create this family that we love to see grow year after year. And so we hope that we were able to convey to all of you as applicants what it's like to be part of the UCLA Neurology family and all the great opportunities we have to offer you in your residency training. With that, we will sign off, but please stay in touch with us via our social media, and we look forward to meeting you throughout this interview season. Bye, everyone.